Thanks to my Ko-fi supporters that make these videos possible. You can also get a deck review on my weekly Tuesday and Sunday streams. It's the best way to support the channel. Hello everyone! I recently built a new deck, and all of that construction, playtesting, and scryfalling had me thinking about certain things that kind of get on my nerves when it comes to the average commander deck I see. Well, maybe getting on my nerves is the wrong way to word that, but maybe more like disappoints me is apt. I just feel like there's just a couple of steps in the deck building process where people don't know they have more options, and I wanted to talk about what those times and what to do. But first, do you know what could never disappoint me? That's our sponsor, Void Monster. VoidMonster.org is an online shop started by MTG artist Forrest ML. Every month there's a new release of exclusive TCG-inspired accessories and apparel. This time around, you green mages are getting a great deal, with you being able to pick up the green collection until May 3rd at 12 p.m. PST. Don't miss out. I literally never use any other playmat anymore besides Void Monsters, and their binders are great as well. Thank you so much, Void Monster, for sponsoring this video. Jaxis is reminiscent of other red legends that make token copies, right? Your Delinas, Ortheons, Calamities. Wow, there are a lot of these. Rionas, Tempestras, and of course the father of them all, your Kiki-Jikis. Now, you regulars to my video know how much I'd loathe to be caught lacking with a non-hipster deck. So of course I had to hop on EDHREC just to make sure that Jaxis wasn't too popular for me to build, and sure enough, she wasn't. She actually does have more decks than Kiki-Jiki, which I found surprising, but she's still pretty far down there. Like, she has less than half the decks Riona does, and in all honesty, by the way, it's kind of hard to pass up on Riona from the perspective of a player who wants to put together a red token copier deck like this. She still does the extra combat combos with Fear of Missing Out and Combat Celebrant that Kiki can do. She also has a higher ceiling, since if you storm off, she'll make you a bunch of extra copies. And even if you brick and draw none of your spells, she always gives you that first pity copy. But here I was, looking at my computer deck building, not looking for a red copy deck, but instead as a player who wanted a good deck that could discard and madness cast the Modern Horizons 3 Emrakul, a totally normal thing that someone would want to do. The most important text to me in this position was Jaxis' ability to discard cards at instant speed. And I found that kind of hilarious, since that very much doesn't read as the most exciting part of this card that, you know, copies your creatures. I thought how cute it was that I had this very funny angle on this card that kind of looks like it's losing a race from one perspective, that being from someone who wants a token copy spam commander, and then looks like it's winning from another perspective, that being from this discard-minded angle that I had. Then I got a little disheartened, like how many funny interactions have been lost, like the Emrakul one, that have been just left unexplored because people would rather gravitate towards Riona for this archetype, especially since Jaxis is so fun. Her placement felt like a little bit of an outlier to me. She's almost tied with Sarkhan, like the one from Tarkir Dragonstorm you forgot about. Like, that's not right. I searched, and sure enough, only 5 decks run Emrakul in their Jaxis decks, which is a crazy low number for a card that is included in nearly 60,000 decks. And it's doubly crazy when you realize there's a second funny Eldrazi that Jaxis enables perfectly. You see, I made this video a while ago called Value Engines for the Utterly Deranged. There, I gave a shout out to the best 7-mana artifact ever, God Pharaoh's Gift. And I went over how Ulamog the Defiler synergizes with it. You see, when you reanimate an Ulamog with the God Pharaoh's Gift, it enters as at least a 14/14 Annihilator 10 with haste. Discarding him is a really good first step to do that, as it turns out. How many Jaxis decks have him? 2. Despite 319 having copies of Combat Celebrant, which you know lets you get as many extra combats and therefore God Pharaoh's Gift triggers with Jaxis as you want, so long as you can pay a red. And what about Combat Celebrant's younger brother, Fear of Missing Out, who doesn't even appear as a recommendation on her page, whose Delirium will be easy as hell to get with all the discarding that Jaxis does? I feel like what's happening here is that people are getting complacent in these spots with the okay cards that they know, rather than searching for the cooler cards that may work better for them instead of or alongside what they have already. And I know this to be true because literally while building this deck, I was one of those people. You see, when I was building Jaxis and trying to find good ways to search up the God Pharaoh's Gift, I thought for half a second about a more heavy artifact deck with Duretti Rocketeer Engineer, Goblin Engineer, and Goblin Matron to tutor them up. And yes, while that is funny, especially since Goblin Matron can also get Squee, which is a house in this deck, when I first showed the deck to Snail, he simply asked, why not run Hoarding Dragon? And you know what? Yeah, you got me. That's a lot simpler. Just have Jaxis copy it, and when the new copy dies, I get to tutor up whatever artifact I want without having to warp my deck for the Goblin line. I literally was so obsessed with a different artifact toolbox that I was already familiar with, rather than searching to see if there was one that better fit the big, dumb, red creature deck I actually wanted to be building. To tie this kind of thought into a nice little bow, I feel like highlighting the point again that it's really easy to get complacent in deck building, to assume you know all there is to know about what you like and adopt a if it ain't broke, don't fix it attitude about decks. Oh, I'm building a commander deck. Of course I need my Generous Gift and my Swords to Plowshares and my Arcane Signet, and before you realize it, your deck is a quarter full of cards that you are running not because you actually thought about them and what their purpose is within the grand vision you have for your funny commander deck, but instead because, oh, it's a commander deck. Of course you have to have these iconic commander cards. That's the largest issue too, is that the cards are actually fine, and the fact that they are pretty okay at their job makes it so you never clock the fact that you're missing out on alternative options at all. I've made a couple videos now about how commander decks can be a window into your personality, and how that's like actually one of the major things that endears me to this format. What jank cards do you decide to play with when they don't have a home elsewhere? What cards truly speak to you in a place that is devoid of a concrete meta that pressures what your idea of fun is? What does it say when a fifth of the cards you picked for that deck, that window into your personality, aren't cards you picked for any particular reason, but instead were just muscle memory additions you put in when starting up a new deck because you didn't think to search for more on-theme options? Oh, so running generic cards is bad then, huh, Elk? So why is your primary example for this video a deck that runs Eldrazi as the top end? Aren't they the king of generic top end threats? Giant colorless finishers that any deck can use? Uh-oh, that's right, this video is now about defending all the cards you hate. You should have made fun of me in the comments of that random Maldhound short where I called Eldrazi cool. That's right, I'm talking to you three commenters that made fun of me in a lighthearted manner. It's too late for you, I'm ulting. Okay, so let's preface this right. Yes, Eldrazi definitely have the capability to be really boring. The accusations are not unfounded. Don't know what to slap at the top of your curve? For a long time, an Eldrazi Titan was never a bad option. Ah yes, watch that Ulamog or Kozilek do work up there. They even come with Annihilator sometimes. You know, a mechanic that's really brutal in the early game when less things are in play, when you say, cheat them out with a sneak attack? Eldrazi Winter took over Modern for a while, and even now Kozilek's Command is an Eldrazi-themed card that is one of the most powerful in the format. These things have a bad reputation from a long history of miserable design, with some examples today. So it's easy to write off when they get an actually cool design that is intensely fun to play with, like, you know, the gang from Modern Horizons 3, Haragast, Ulamog, and Emrakul, all of which are in this deck. Like, do you know the lengths I'm going to be able to consistently madness Emrakul? I opted to run Rockface Village because it's a dual land that taps for both red and colorless. Rockface Village. I'm not running that to give my Mindclaw Shaman haste, like, watch out, the 3-2 is coming. No, I'm running that for Emmy, and the reason is I love that card, even though the Eldrazi Titans have a history of getting designs that create less than stellar gameplay. By conceptualizing Eldrazi as one big design mistake, you are erroneously dismissing designs that would make fun and interesting lines for your deck, much like before, but in a different way. Here, instead of passing up on designs because you're comfortable about what you already know, you are instead passing up on them due to stigma. This phenomena extended to the VOD channel. I uploaded a video of a Selesnya Dragon deck that featured Dramoka. You know, the original one that bolsters when dragons you control attack? The deck ran Wildwood Scourge, a Hydra that gets counters when non-Hydras get counters, and Guardian Scalelord, a dragon that gets counters when different creatures you control get counters. You see the joke here. The combo wasn't something the creator of the deck hated, so I decided to give them a tutor option for the Hydra in the form of Starfield Shepherd and Ranger Captain of Eos, cards that could also grab utility creatures like Mother of Runes or Spore Frog. It was here in this 1-drop or less searchers and counter synergies that I identified Walking Ballista as an interesting inclusion for the deck. I mean, it also literally works so well with the mechanics of Bolster. You can remove the counters on the Ballista until it's your creature with the least toughness to manipulate the counters your attacking dragons grant you and turn them into damage guaranteed. This was a fun play pattern the owner of the deck liked, so naturally the next step was to introduce them to Aggie's Soul Cauldron. And let me tell you, there were a couple of folks that did not care for this whole Ballista Soul Cauldron idea in the comments. Simply put, these two cards are powerful and have been done to death in generic +1/+1 counter strategies that it makes you forget that the method of putting counters on your creatures in this deck is fucking swinging with a bunch of dragons with Dramoka the Eternal in play. I just think it's sad that the new context these cards gain here is lost in a sea of rage about how these cards are boring and insert other +1/+1 counter deck here. But great news, pal! I didn't put this in a Corval deck or a Titus deck or whatever your LGS +1/+1 counter gamer is that scarred you for life. This was a bespoke recommendation for a Dramoka player. Like, can we acknowledge that's a very, very different context for this, right? Anyway, my grand point is to be critical about what you lean on. EDH players seem to put too much effort into optimizing what they already know, and in do so, miss out on exploring the unknown. Simultaneously, I hope to caution you against taking critiques of cards too far. There are plenty of cards that can be incredibly boring and generic picks for list. Absolutely. The game of Magic is infinitely complex though, and cards and mechanics that may suck in one area for you may very well make for fun gameplay that you find interesting and rewarding in a different context. By dismissing a card or whole archetype as boring in its entirety, you are fundamentally limiting your scope as a deck builder and a player in the same way. But instead of comfort, it's because of a stigma. Okay, that does it for this video. Were there any cards that you ran in a list that you eventually replaced with a better option you didn't know about? Are there any cards that get a bad rap as boring, but actually have certain context that make them incredibly fun? Have you thought about questioning the cards you typically swear by? Let me know down in the comments below, and until next time,